I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome, welcome, all you garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people to the Let's Get Growing show right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm one of your co-hosts today. We'll be joined with our other co-host today here in just a moment. We've got our good friend Mark Boucher Colbert joining with us live today to co-host what is our monthly gardening book club today. Yes, today is the third Sunday of the month, and on the third Sunday of the month, we get together with our good friend Mark Lachey Colbert, like I said, MBC in the garden here in just a few minutes, and then here later on as well, co-hosting our monthly gardening book club, where this month we are featuring the book What We Sow by Jennifer Jewell. Jennifer will be joining with us here just a little bit later on in the show to talk all about her book, What We Sow. This book was just really fantastic. I can't wait to talk to Jennifer. I know Mark can't wait either, too. So, again, just another really great book selection here on our monthly gardening book club here at the Let's Get Growing show. Definitely hope you all have been enjoying our monthly gardening book club as well, too. So, if you are here right at the top of the show, definitely click that like button, hit the thumbs up, as well as subscribe and hit the bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming shows and all of our videos, and share with all of your friends out there. Let everybody know, let all your garden friends and your garden clubs and groups and all of that, let them know about this really fun gardening talk show. Just an amazing, like I said, we were talking about this before the show, and I just really think just an amazing worldwide audience. I mean, look at all you viewers out there, where you're all from and all of that. And just look how far we reach with this Let's Get Growing show, talking to some of the most amazing guests that you'll find out there right here on this show. I don't think you will find another gardening talk show worldwide that is great, as fun as what you're going to have here, and the conversations you're going to get right here on the Let's Get Growing show. So I just have to brag just a little bit today about that, because this show has just been so much fun. We've been able to have so many great people join with us, and today is no different. We've got an amazing book, amazing guest today, and of course our really good friend Mark Boucher Colbert joining with us as a co-host as well, too. So really awesome show today. Thank you all so much for being here. Big huge shout out to all of you who are watching our replay. Thank you all for joining us on your time, and when you get a chance to watch the show. I see a lot of people do watch us on the replay as well. If you do watch the replay and are, get down in the comment section below. Let me know if you got any suggestions, any books that you really like. We're talking book club today. We're talking seeds as well, too. I mean, what kind of seeds are you planting? What's your favorite gardening book? Something like that. Get down in the comment section. Let me know. I'd love to hear all about it. I'd love to hear your suggestions as well. Like I said, maybe there's a book or an author that we can have featured in a future book club. So I would definitely love to do that if that's something you guys out there, because this this is a live show with all of you as well, too. Let's get some of those things you really enjoy on the show as well, too. So definitely let me know in the comments below. And if you are here joining with us live and have any questions, comments, and or anything like that, definitely jump into the chat there and ask any of your questions, especially of our guests when we have our guest on here just a little bit later on. I love it when you guys contribute questions to the conversation. So definitely do that. Put them in all caps so that I can see them from the regular conversation, and we just might feature them right here on the show. And definitely check out all of our links to our guests and everything right down below in the description. So again, great to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining with us. I do want to kind kind of mention a couple of things that we've got coming up here on the show. Next week, we're going to hopefully put together a gardening roundtable and have a conversation with someone, with a gardening roundtable. And I do want to start promoting this show though as well too. We've got a really special guest I just booked. I'm really kind of excited about, so we're going to start promoting that today, March 1st, Saturday. So this will be on our Saturday show. We've got joining with us Charles Dowding. We're going to talk all about the no-dig gardening revolution with Charles Dowding right here on the show. He's someone I've been trying to get on the show for a little while, so I'm really excited about having him on the show and getting to talk with him as well. And that's going to be a really exciting show. So I hope you all definitely. I did put a link to that, so there is on our live page. You can check that out as well too. And I'm sure that Jay will drop a link as well too in the chat for us, so that you guys can go and click the reminder for that show, so you don't miss out on Charles Dowding joining with us here on March 1st. So really fun, really great. And then next Saturday too, we're going to do a little bit of a different type of a live stream. We're going to possibly we'll see about this, but maybe we might get Mark back live again 2 weeks in a row. Maybe we might talk him into it. We'll talk all about the Flower Garden Festival and all of that sort of thing. I wish I could make it though too. So this is going to be a thing. I have to have our good friend kind of be a correspondent for us, because I was really hoping to get to meet up with him. I'm not going to be able to make it, I don't think. I'm still trying to figure something out. I don't know, but if anything, maybe we'll get some good reporting from one of the great garden shows out there up in Seattle from our good friend. We'll talk with him about it here in just a little bit as well too. So right on, everybody. Thank you so much. If you didn't see yesterday's show, yesterday we had with us Greg Peterson from the Urban Farm. Greg Peterson, good friend of the show, Urban Farm podcast. He's got something going on right now. They're just launching. This is some. Well, it's actually I say it's just launching, but it's actually just kind of an expanding of a local program that they did, kind of expanding it out now basically throughout the country and all of that. I'm not sure, maybe worldwide as well too, but it's definitely called the Great American Seed Up. And we had a great conversation yesterday talking all about this kind of unique new type of seed program that he and some other friends of his have developed and put together. And again, like I said, it started out as kind of a local meetup, a kind of a fun thing that they were doing, and then became this just became big. I mean, it became bigger and bigger and bigger. So they thought what could they do with it when COVID hit, and they weren't able to bring people together for these big meetups that they were doing for these seed exchanges. So they thought of this seed box program that they set up, and then that became this thing now that they're offering out to everybody else. It's really cool. It's really unique. It's almost like being able to start your own little small independent seed shop, if you want to, or if you will, or a really awesome way to be able to gift seeds to people in a very inexpensive way, and get seeds out to your friends, family, neighbors as well, to share seeds and all of that too. It's the Great American Seed Up. And like I said, it's a really awesome program. You want to go back and check out yesterday's show, talking with Greg Peterson all about this really cool seed program that he's got. And so definitely do that. And just really excited about our show today. Thank you all so much for being here with us. Let's jump into our comments here real quick and give a few of you a shout out here. I know everybody's already having a great conversation already. Let's see here. I want to see if we can. There we are. Here we are, right at the top here. Let's give a big shout out to our facilitator, Jay Dixon, joining us from Midwestern Ontario, Canada. Jay is our facilitator, and like I said just a few minutes ago, to look out for some links and all of that in the conversation. Jay's always dropping in links and helping us out with the conversation as well. If you have a channel or anything like that, you'd like a shout out or anything as well too, Jay will drop in links as well to small channels and all of that as well for shout outs and all of that. Jay does some really great facilitating for our show. So thanks again, Jay, for being here with us today. And as well, we have our moderator, Adam Burley, joining with us right from up the road from me there in Central Point, Oregon. Thanks, Adam, for being with us here today. So great to see you. And I see we got Bowtie Life in the Garden and his Triple G greetings, global gardeners. Oh yeah. Well, that's Gardner Scott's. I gotta leave that to him. That's his there. But yeah, we're definitely all global gardeners. As I said, we got great global audience. Thanks, Dave, for joining with us here today. So great to see you. And let's see here. And make sure I'm not missing anybody. I know I saw some. Oh, I see we got OGG here. Hello, great to see you. Great to have you here with us. Right on, right on. I see we've got Rick joining us from Australia as well. He's up nice and early, joining us again. Like I said, from the future. Rick's up nice and early here with us. Thank you for joining us from Australia. Let's see here. Let's see. I see we got Shawnee Grows in the chat as well. Thanks for being here for today's gardening book club. Right on, right on. Rick says fantastic. Right on. Excellent, excellent. All right, let's see here. We got Leslie dropping in. Thanks, Leslie. It's great to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you, Janet, as well, too. Thank you for joining with us here. Again, everybody, we're going to have a great day here. See Mill Creek as well, talking all about this just really great, amazing book today on our book club, What We Sow by Jennifer Jewell. She's going to be our guest here in just a little bit here on the show. But also one of the other things too. Hey, Anthony, great to see you here with us as well too. Thanks for dropping in and joining with us on the show. But the other thing that we get to do here on Sundays, starting off our show, is we usually get to have a nice little fun little segment with our friend Mark Boucher Colbert in the garden. And on the third Sunday of the month for our book club, we're lucky he's here live. So let's drop in and into the garden and see what's going on with our good friend Mark Boucher Colbert. All right. Here he is,
Hey,
our
Nick,
good
how are you?
friend,
Hey, welcome
NBC,
everybody.
Mark Boucher Colbert, back here again with us live. It's in the garden. How are we doing today, Mark?
Oh man, Enoch, I'm just I'm gonna boast with you and just say this has got to be the greatest garden show on the planet, and I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you. I
No,
appreciate that. Yes,
I don't think that's
absolutely.
boasting, Enoch. I think you are bringing something amazing.
Now, there's some
just
great garden podcasts and shows out there. I know many of them. They're
you do
great
know many of
people, great podcasts, and all of that. I do want to say that and everything as well too. But every time I'm kind of going through our future guest list and thinking about things what we've done already in the past with this show in the last couple of years, I just sit back and kind of wonder, like, wow, what we've accomplished with this show is really absolutely amazing. And you won't find anything like it really, out there. There's some great shows. There's some great shows. Props to all of them. In fact, they like I said, just really awesome stuff out there. I love the whole garden community, and that's what we're here to do is support them anyways. But every now and then I gotta kind of gloat just a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm
Well,
sorry,
just
everybody. Just I won't do it often, but every now
no,
and
and
then.
book group is one of the great things. I mean, it really is.
Yeah,
Just
that's one of the things we
chance
were talking about before the show, huh?
keep hammering away at the stuff, just getting just a breadth of perspectives. I mean, we started this last April. We've done everything from foraging to basic gardening to like garden humor to botanic gardens. Today we're diving into seeds. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I know that I have been growing as a person, as a gardener, and I'm just hungry for it now that we've started. It's like there's no stopping. We're not stopping this adventure. It's going forward from here. There's no end point. It's like when do you know everything you need to know? Nothing. Wow, I'm getting some real NBC crowd
That's
roars.
right. That's
Hey, the
right. There
crowd is
you go.
roaring.
Yeah. And
Love.
Mobius says, glowed away, right on. Well, you know what? I don't, that's not really too much of my actual personality, but every now and then, like I said, I was really doing some work, thinking about some future shows and where we're going this year. And then again, too, looking back at last year and everything. And I was just kind of really thinking about it like, wow, we've really accomplished something here with this show. So yes, absolutely. I got to every now and then
Yeah,
kind of do a
and
little
Enoch,
bit.
let's get back to another point since you mentioned show.
Yes,
Not only
yes,
your show, but we have the Flower and Garden Show, and I'm surprised you even
yes.
thought. I'm surprised you had even a half a second hesitation whether I would be a live correspondent for you. Of course, I
I,
will.
I
I will
know,
walk around with my camera on all day long if you tell me to. Probably
I
not
know,
all.
I know
Of
exactly.
course, yes. I mean, I'm really. Hopefully, we can still get you up there. Hopefully, some miracle
I
thing will
know.
come
Yeah, I'm really again miracles are again. It's not showtime yet. There's still days to go.
There's
So
days to
like
go,
my
Enoch.
hopes
Anything can
there's
happen.
still that little. It's getting littler though. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna.
but again, like I told you, I'm gonna be bummed for months about this. But in the long run, I again too, I'm really glad to know that you'll be up there. And again,
Yeah.
like I said, that's where we'll set up that show. We'll do it Saturday. We'll kind of a cool, fun little get together, and then maybe do a little live walking around, checking some things out, maybe a little review of the show. I've already also been in talks with our good friend Wendy Fan as well too.
Oh yeah,
She'll be
Wendy.
up there too, so maybe she'll be there earlier days than you.
Mm.
But so maybe what we'll do is we'll record something or whatever, and we can play that for the show as well too. But we'll just kind of have like a little fun little Seattle Flower and Garden Show fun next Saturday. So then
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. It's the biggest. It's the biggest show on the West Coast, the second biggest in the U.S., and it
Mhm.
is it's an amazing experience for people who haven't gone. There's a giant exhibition hall full of
Yeah.
live displays that combine
Mhm.
thousands of plants. Many of them. Part of the excitement for me is I can almost smell the hyacinths and the tulips and the
Yeah,
daffodils and
yeah.
all the stuff that's been forced for the show. It's in flower. So these talented designers make these incredible displays. So it's usually with some architectural elements,
Yeah. Just
sometimes
amazing
giant
stuff.
rocks, all kinds of stuff. That is inspiring. Then there's a huge other exhibition hall, all with vendors, or even two of those halls. You walk around, you see every kind of product, you get show discounts. You can often talk to the makers or the people who are, at high
Mhm.
levels of distribution of this stuff. They know everything about their industry. That's fascinating. And
Just
then there's
amazing.
a subterranean three giant conference rooms where they're doing like constant talks by noted
Mm.
authors like Jennifer Jewell could be there. Anybody who's written a book like that we've done in our book group
Well, here's
can.
the thing I'm going to tease here. I'm going to tease later on in
Yeah,
the show
okay.
because what we'll do is we'll jump back on this subject just a little bit at the end of the show because we're going to, as everybody knows, it's the book club. So at the end of our show, every time we also announce our next
Yeah.
book, and the author of our next book will actually be at the Seattle Flower and Garden Show
Yeah.
as
So
well
I'm going to
too.
get Peter.
So hopefully Mark will get a like a pre-interview, I guess, or something as well
Mhm.
too, and get to meet up with our next author as well too. So we'll touch up a little bit more on the Seattle Flower and Garden Show just a little bit later on, though, as well, and
Yeah.
kind of get back on this for everybody as well too. So pay attention so stay tuned. We'll talk more about that too. We're talking some seeds though this weekend. I had Greg Peterson on yesterday talking about, he's got this really cool thing, the Great American Seed Up. It's really cool. In fact, I'll have to talk to you a little bit more about this because I think the idea is really great. But if anybody hasn't checked that out, go back and check that out. So we kind of
I'm gonna go
started
check
the
that.
weekend yesterday, Saturday, talking about seeds and all of that as well with Greg Peterson. Now we're back here today to talk all about this really awesome book, What We Sow. So we'll be talking about that here with our author here just in a little bit. But I do know that for this segment here, you really, I mean, again, we all love doing this. I mean, this is one of the fun things we get to do during this time of year is, perusing our seed catalogs and all of our favorite seed suppliers and vendors and companies out there and all of that. But you just got something from one of my favorite seed companies out there, right? And look how big this box is, everybody.
Okay, yeah. So this is a box. This is my box that just came in yesterday from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, one of my favorite seed companies. And I practiced such incredible restraint not to tear it open immediately. I have waited. The only thing I did this morning was I cut the packing tape
Right.
and I just verified that I could actually open the box so I wouldn't, make a fool out of myself trying to do it on live here and it wouldn't work. But I have not opened this box yet. So I am going to live right
awesome.
here, open this
Yes.
box and see some of what's in here because I have actually even forgotten all the things that I ordered. And this is for like 3 different gardening ventures. It's for my school garden where I'm a garden. Oh my God, there's so many seeds in here. Look at this. It's just
oh wow.
It is packed with seeds. Oh my God. And look at this.
Oh my.
The receipt looks like a roll of toilet paper. It's so long.
Holy moly. Mark, you really went for it this time, didn't you?
Something here. I'm going to disclaim something because when you're looking at a seed catalog, it's like being if you're a true gardener, and I think everyone can agree with this, if they shout it out on the comments, if so, I think you get into a little bit of an altered state of consciousness, and therefore you cannot totally be responsible for all the decisions that you make in that state of consciousness. So I think I went a little crazy. I think I might have overdone a little bit. It's all for the good, though. It doesn't have bad side effects. I mean, a little bit of repercussion on my budget. Let's just look at some of them, though, right? I'm not even sure where all these are going yet. I have to sort them out based on my original order. I've got some flowers here. Titan sunflower. That's going to school. I know I want those big sunflower heads. Some of the stuff at school too, I let the kids, my 4th through 6th graders, we go through the seed catalog. The Baker Creek sends us seed catalogs, their little mini version. We go through and I let them vote on things we should grow, and then I order the top 10. So I know for a fact there's like Carolina Reaper pepper seeds in here because the kids really want us to grow Carolina Reaper.
There you go. Anyway, right on.
Some of these purple dragon carrot. How about that? That looks nice. I got a couple of those. Chinese pink celery. I think that's for my rooftop garden. Gonna try some Tahitian melon squash. Loofah gourds. I love loofahs. They're fun to grow.
Yep.
You can eat them.
I got some of those. I still got a little bit left from the ones I got last year of those. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just like one of those cool products where, every time I buy like a kitchen sponge that's plastic, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? And it's like, I could be growing it. And you can eat these at a young stage. Gourds are delicious. Ooh.
Mobius asks Mark, are they alphabetized?
No, they're just coming out here. They're just coming out. I don't
kind
know
of random.
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason.
Right
Cosmos,
right.
This beautiful apricot lemonade.
Yeah.
That. I mean, the flowers. When I first started growing vegetables, I was a vegetable farmer, and that's all I was all about. I didn't really actually care about flowers very much. But I have gotten so into flowers lately. It's almost like sometimes the flowers are more important than the veggies. Look at that Bulgarian giant leek. Got to start
Yes.
those.
Oh man, yeah. Those look great for leeks. I haven't grown leeks in a few years. I've got to do some that. That reminds me, I'm going to put that on my list for this year.
Melons, Kazakh melon. Oh, this, I mean, sometimes it's the pictures. I will agree. Baker Creek succeeds because it has these incredible, sexy
Oh, their
pictures.
photography is amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're like these giant heads of cauliflower. And I'm like, oh my God, must grow.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon's egg, cucumber. Oh, here's something I've never grown before. Celtus or Celtus. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced. It's a stem lettuce. That looks fun. Anyway, you know, it's just like,
Ooh.
I mean, I could just go on and on. Let me see if there's anything that really stands out. Here's one I would really recommend to people, and this reseeds very easily. Perpetual spinach, chard. I love that.
Okay.
It's a great green. It doesn't have as much earthy bite as a regular Swiss chard. And a little gem. I love that lettuce. That's a great one. Little gem. Oh, I don't know. Oh, we grow. This is a fun area. We grow corn for grinding for flour at my school. We grind it as part of this program called microeconomy. So we've been getting into the flour and the dent corns, and there's so much. We'll touch on that today, I'm sure, because one, there's a tremendous indebtedness to indigenous farmers who selected this, and then there's all kinds of other people. This is a Montana guy, I think, who's been making these just incredible
yeah, that looks amazing. Color
Yeah,
is
so-
great. That color is
Oh my
great.
God. I mean, I'm not going to go through more of this stuff, but just look. I mean, there's like, I really went too. Look at this. This is like,
You just can't help it, right? You just can't help it.
Okay, this was my major purchase. Okay, this I did order most of my seeds from here, but unfortunately, not all. I still have other ones that I have to do. So anyway, I'm hopeless, but it's fun.
That's just amazing, though. Again, too, it's I've had seasons like that as well too, where I find myself just going crazy with wanting to try and do new variety, and I do always add new varieties every year and all that. But some years, like you said, we kind of look at it, we go, well, I gotta have it though.
Yeah.
I don't know
Now,
if I could actually do it, but I gotta have this.
You gotta have it. What I have to remember to do is, like, right after the sowing season. So like, here's like golden sweet pea. I'm going to grow this, pretty soon, start planting it. Well, let's say I don't plant all of it. I got to remember to label it, put it in a Ziploc bag and throw it in the freezer.
Yeah.
That way, and then make some kind of a list of what I still have left over so that next year, see, the problem is always like, you forget what you haven't indexed it properly, you haven't saved it properly. It's kind of hanging around in some little box or some. And then the next year you get the catalog, you forget everything you did last year, and you just do it as if it's new this year. That's the problem. So I vowed to be more disciplined this year. Anyway,
Adam
it probably won't happen.
Adam asks Mark, how many free seed packs did you get though with that order?
Well, that's a good, that maybe they have that.
We know they give you good free seed packs, and with an order like that, they must have dropped in some good ones for you.
They do, yeah. Free gift. Looks like I got maybe nine. Oh no, they're scattered throughout 1, 2, 3. I'm sure they did me right. Oh yeah, 9. I think I got 9 free seed packs. So I don't know what those are.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Jay says, Mark, throw the seeds on the floor and roll around in all your wealth.
I just want to kind of, I will here, just for the sake of the show. I'll just throw some up in the air. Yeah. Okay.
That's just amazing. That's just amazing. So much fun, Mark. Oh, how awesome. Awesome. Right on, Mark. Well, that's just really great. So great for you for you to do that unboxing with us. Show us all your massive wealth you have that's in all those amazing seeds and all that. Like I said, it's just too hard to resist sometimes. I find myself with boxes like that every couple of years or so too, but so much fun. Absolutely. And like you said, Baker Creek too, you can't beat some of those seeds for sure.
Oh man, and I mean, as we'll talk about more, it's all open pollinated stuff. So if I have the discipline and the spacing in the garden and the
Hmm.
wherewithal to do it, I can potentially save seeds from all of that. So it's not that I will, because obviously we use our seed companies do us a great service in doing a lot of that work for us. But I can. That's the important thing. I can, and I will do it for some of it. So
Yep.
I'll be able to make my own little contribution that way, and that will just open me up to buy more of their seeds, because then the stuff I will have saved some, and I can try something new next year.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So right on. So how about this, Mark? How about we just take a real quick break here, real quick? When we come
Good.
back, let's jump into this just really awesome book.
Oh
It's a
God, I
it's
can't
book
wait. I
club
cannot
time. We're going
wait.
to talk about what we sow here. So let's like I said, take one moment here, and thanks again for the fun in the garden segment with all those fun seeds as we're talking about seeds this weekend. We'll see you guys in just one moment.
Yeah.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible feature visits. All right, all right, all right. There you are, Mark.
I was just picking up all my seed packages. I made quite a mess there.
Oh my, oh my.
Okay.
Excellent, excellent. Right on, right on. Well, it's now time for us to talk all about books. It's the third Sunday of the month, and each third Sunday of the month, we are doing our monthly gardening book club. All right, all right, all right. Monthly gardening book club. This month we are featuring the book What We Sow by Jennifer Jewell. And I'm telling you what, when I was looking at this book and I was reaching out to Jennifer about doing having her featured for our book club, I didn't know really what I was getting into here. This is just something else. I'm telling you, I did when I got this book, I was like, oh wow, this is good. And then we started reading and just a massive amount. I mean, we're talking from botany to seed sovereignty here. You know what I mean? Just all sorts of things going on in this book. That's just some really amazing stuff. I'm so glad that we got this book in our book club.
Yeah, this is a big bite, Enoch. I mean, this is like one of those ones where you make the big bite and then you go back and nibble a lot. That's what I'm
Right.
finding about the book. Like I read it through and then I'm loving going back in 10-page swaths of it and just like taking it in, because it is time release. It is like you're gonna get so much out of this book. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, so much, so many great things going on in this book here. And so without further ado, let's just dig right into it with and again too, one of the great amazing things and fun things about this book club, Mark, is we get to discuss these awesome, amazing books with the authors. And today we've got the author of this amazing book, What We Sow, with us, Jennifer Jewell, joining with us on the Let's Get Growing show today.
Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you so much for this amazing book. Just so really, really, like I said, just really so glad that we caught onto this book for our book club here, rolling along into our year, into our new year this year.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, and thank you for those kind words about the book. It was a big bite for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't wait to really dig into all of that for sure. But before we do dig into this book here, I want to give you a minute really to kind of introduce yourself to everybody and maybe kind of let us know a little bit more about yourself and your kind, maybe your, you know, your gardening history, maybe your gardening story. Maybe you can share with us a little bit how, you've gotten into this really, well, I mean, for one, leading up to this book for sure.
Yeah. Well, I always introduce I self-identify as a gardener first and foremost, unless my children are in the room, and then I identify as a mother first and a gardener second. But I was born and raised by two people who loved plants and the world around them. My dad was a wildlife biologist, and my mother was a professional gardener. So, like, plants and what they meant to us and how they made the world around us work was definitely part of the water I swam in and the air I breathed as a little person. And I, as a young adult, just naturally went to, hey, Leslie, thank you for that. Just wanted to garden. And when I had my first, tiny little garden in Seattle, Washington, actually, as an adult, it was just like, I woke up every morning, at 5 a.m., like someone newly in love, and just wanted to be out there every moment and see what was happening and what plants was I going to meet. And then I was working as a writer and editor, and ultimately I started to write about gardens and to make what could be a very long story very short. I started a public radio program and podcast in 2007. It was a locally based one here in Northern California. And in 2016, it grew up into the national and international podcast called Cultivating Place.
Yes.
And it really focuses on why we garden and on garden people more than how to garden, which was important to me as a gardener of some years, which I think a lot of gardeners out there will understand. Like you already mentioned it, we never know it all. We're never going to know it all. The garden and our climates and our places are always going to school us on what we don't know. But we always need how to garden. But at the point that I started my program, I think I was particularly aware of my children growing up and taking on messaging from our culture about the value of gardens and gardeners. And I was increasingly uncomfortable with the messages my children were receiving from the larger world. Some about gardens being kind of really pretty, but not that powerful, and kind of sweet, but not as important as making a good living. And that I really struggled with that, because my experience was that gardens and gardeners are actually like part of the foundation of what makes life worth living. And plants are at that foundation. And I wanted to demonstrate to them, as well as myself and the larger culture, that gardeners actually are a a cross section of our humanity that are these agents and spaces for positive change that we often disregard or are invisible to us. And when we make them more visible and we hear their voices and we see just how much they grow in the world beyond the plants themselves or the pretty spaces themselves, the healthier our whole culture and society is, the stronger it is, not just our individual households, but our economies, our cultures, our food, our very sort of sense of self are stronger when we see and support the best of gardening.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I love that. And real quick, though, I'm going to let you, Mark, go real quick. I just wanted to say, though, too, because you mentioned cultivating places, which and one of the things too is I take real huge inspiration in what you do and have done with that show as well too, because that's kind of one of the things we kind of like to think about as well here at the Let's Get Growing show, is that this is all about, like at the top of the screen there, it's about gardening community.
Yep.
It's about growing community and those people who are in some way, people in our community who really represent and share and the best of what we do in the gardening community. And so again too, I take a lot of inspiration what you do with cultivating places as well. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit more as we get moving on later on in the interview. But I know Mark's just dying to jump in here though too.
Well, I'll say one funny
story.
When Enoch and I are kind of prepping for this, we're always like wondering, what's the personality of the person going to be like, and how they're going to be in conversation, and referring to your NPR podcast and stuff. Enoch said, "Oh, we don't have to worry about Jennifer. She's a professional talker, so we're good."
This is true.
Well, no. First of all, I feel very validated by that last comment. Being a gardener myself and a garden educator, but this bringing out what's often invisible is interesting to me. Right at the very start, you have some real wonderful turns of phrase, but sometimes they're shocking. And here's one of them that I'd like you to talk a little bit more about. We are plant blind and seed stupid. Say more about that in our culture. And, it speaks to why you wrote this book, but say more about that.
Yeah. Well, so it was interesting because the impetus for this book. So first of all, I'll come back to the sort of thesis for Cultivating Place, my program, which is subtitled Conversations on Natural History and the Human Impulse to Garden. The whole point of it is trying to demonstrate and illustrate and share and celebrate gardens and gardeners as these powerful intersectional agents and spaces for change in our world in myriad ways that we sometimes fail to see. And so everything I write comes back to that general motivation. And my first book was about women in gardening and how they are sort of growing our understanding of what the gardening world is and should include. And then my second book was about sort of really, to me, very interesting gardens of the US West and how they are bringing together culture and ecology and land use and resource use in intelligent but also beautifully designed ways. And so, I've been doing this now, this version of my radio program for almost 10 years. We're in our 10th year of production. I've been gardening my whole life. I had these super smart gardening parents, right? I'm surrounded by the garden community. And all of a sudden, we're bam in March of 2020. You guys remember March of 2020. It was a doozy, right? And I get home, my partner John and I are on the road on a speaking tour for the first book, The Earth in Her Hands. And everything shuts down, the tour shuts down, everything's in turmoil. We all remember we had to get home. We had to worry about where our kids were. But we were gardeners and we weren't supposed to be home. We were supposed to be on the road for 9 weeks. So as a result, that year, we had not done that joyful act that you just did Mark, we did not order seeds because we didn't think we would be home for our spring garden.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And all of a sudden we went, wow, we need to order our seeds. And we get online to our favorite sellers, and seeds are like, we all got these messages, back ordered, out of stock, not available, and there was this moment of being like, I think I'm so smart. I think I'm so knowledgeable and experienced. What the hell is happening with our seed supply, and why don't I understand it? And it was this real epiphany of me as an individual gardener, but also as a stand-in for us collectively as gardeners, actually not knowing enough about our seed world, from the botanical to the seed sovereignty to the seed supply, about how and where these like magical things come to us. Like, how did they get there? Who is taking care of them? Who is not taking care of them? Who is legislating them? Who is profiting off of them? All of these questions I didn't know the answers to. And that felt like a real lapse in my own integrity as a gardener. Like, as gardeners, this is our primary subject, love, engagement. To not understand the seed behind it felt like I had failed in my primary love relationship.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Really great. And I like to try, there's a couple of points here actually for today, but I like to try to find something to kind of read from and whatnot. And Mark pinpointed that right off the bat there too, was something that kind of stood out to me, was that point of plant blindness.
And how seed stupid even I was. So like, if we refer to so much of the non-gardening people in our world as plant blind, right? They're driving down the road and it's just a green blur. So we might be able to say, oh, that's an oak, or that's a pine, or that's a daffodil. Like, we hold this as a point of pride that we are not plant blind. But so if we don't understand about seed, the people that see a green blur really don't understand about seed. And none of us should be seed stupid or plant blind. Like,
Yeah. And you kind of started, and you talk about that. You talk about how kind of demographics worked into all of this sort of thing. And I just thought it was just such a really interesting point, but it led up to you saying that if people are not routinely made to, or do not have opportunity to look at, to see, to think about plants, they are reduced as a source of knowledge and essential literacy. In our increasingly urbanized world, even with today's standard school curriculum, how often and when would new generations learn to truly see or know plants, let alone their seed? Places for this do exist everywhere, but we do not take much advantage of urban environments. A small pocket park, community garden plot, along an urban riverbank, on a roadside or sidewalk verge, or remnant lot left to its own devices, we will see that life finds a foothold, but we now have to be taught to look for it. Most who have been given any chance to garden come to this revelation quickly. Every seed that germinates is a renewal of an outright miracle. How the hell does it work? Even once successfully, continue year after year and seed after seed. It is a miracle we take for granted daily.
Yeah.
Just amazing. I just thought that was so poignant. And I love the idea, like you're talking about demographics and all of that. You're bringing in these, the idea of unused spaces in a way, and that sort of stuff. It just really spoke to me a lot too. And I think that's really, really true about where we are today, in a sense.
Yeah. And I love, like, just having you read that reminds me of some of the research that I did on some of the lack of focus on this in curriculum, or how quickly it goes by, and I am so grateful for someone like Mark and the millions of people out there in the world who are doing the tough work of like a schoolyard garden, which has to be some of the hardest gardening across seasons possible. And like, that's where we learn, right? That is where we learn. If it's not available to us in our birth homes or environments. But they're everywhere, right? I mean, that's the fact, is they are, seeds and plants are everywhere making it work. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was this book was like a weaving for me, as I read it, of hope and despair. It's like, I think I would be hard pressed to, just extricate one part of that out, or not, be able to say it's just, it's a book, and so there's like an emotional part to that. And I want to just go into that a little bit now, and then maybe we can direct more hopeful comments toward the end. I mean, we're kind of, I think those of us who are sensitive to this stuff, we realize we're teetering on the edge. There's thresholds we may be crossing that we can't return from in terms of the viability of the planet, ecosystems and such. And obviously seeds are part of that. But there's one portion of the book that I thought was very symbolical of the whole thing. And I'd like you to kind of take us through that experience. When you drove from your home, which I think is in Chico or something in California, and then down to Tucson, Arizona, and you go through the Coachella Valley.
Oh,
just those pages were very hard to read. I think you call them like an encyclopedia entry on all the ills of colonization and European colonization. So tell us about that, and like unpack that a little bit, because there's some of the despair. I think we have to touch it a little bit in order to then feel the hopefulness.
Because I was in the middle of writing this book when we took that trip. And, you go drive. So for people that aren't familiar with California, it's a big, big state, and it's long, and it is a biodiversity hotspot on the planet. And the reason it is a biodiversity hotspot is that it has all of this diverse geography, topography, all these different climates and microclimates and eco sort of regions, and then ecosystems within those. It ranges from very high alpine to very low desert to lush areas, again, some desert areas, a lot of urban spaces that have highly pressured the land. As you drive down, you from the north to the south, especially going through the center of the state and then down through as it narrows down towards the lowest parts, you drive through hundreds and hundreds of years of different waves of immigration and colonization. The more research is revealed, how as well the hundreds of years of land management that took place prior to European colonization in the form of indigenous land care and management, which they are finding sort of in different carbon layers at the bottom of lakes that are drying, or they can get core samples from. Fascinating. So, but as you drive down, you not only see these hundreds of years like in the present tense, you see them in the past tense also. You see, whole orchards that have been abandoned because the water is not there anymore, or it was never a great place to plant anyway. And there's just, a dead orchard and abandoned infrastructure. You keep going down and you understand why California is one of the major exporters or producers of some of these produce crops that we hear about, avocados and dates and artichokes and strawberries. And I mean, you can name so many of them.
Yeah.
The places where these exist are places that wouldn't naturally have wanted to grow any of this. And the only reason that it's possible is through major human interference or intervention. And it can, you can read that however you want. In one way, it's one of the great, what do they call those things of the world? The wonders, one of the great wonders of the world, to redirect the Colorado River through a place it wasn't supposed to go in order to get water to a place that doesn't have water in order to grow all of these crops. So in one way, it's this great, pinnacle of human invention and success and abundance. But then you have to look at it, especially because we are now able to look at it with hindsight as part of the present tense. You see what some of the consequences of that are and continue to be. And one of those is incredible loss of native habitat. It is a mindset that says, that's a desert. I don't see anything of value to me there. So I'm just going to, upend it and do what I want with it. And we lose it, not having understood what was there to start with.
Yep.
And so in the midst of this conversation about, or this illustration of the incredible ability for humans to dominate and transform the world around them, you also see the many ways in which they have destroyed the world around them, all at the exact same time. And so then you have to ask yourself, as a human on this planet right now, and I'll give just one tiny example of how this story was like heartbreaking and breathtaking to me at the same time, was this idea of our great love of tomatoes year round, all the time, in perfect shape, delivered to our grocery stores, no matter what the weather is outside. And these coming out of large greenhouses in the Coachella Valley. And understanding, because of having done different research, that in order for these to be pollinated, millions of bumblebees have been taken from native bumblebees from the Western US to Europe, produced at a larger scale and shipped back to be workers in these greenhouses because of the conditions, which is, like so close to enslavement in terms of how they are treated, cared for, shipped, used. They then get sick because the conditions are not ideal for a native bumblebee. And as a result of the sickness, and maybe it came from a pathogen in Europe that was brought over with this particular bumblebee, Bombus occidentalis, some of these are let go into the environment because they are no longer worth it in this greenhouse. And they infect the most populous native bumblebee on the West Coast. And it is now down to like 1% of what its former populations were. So then I have to ask myself, as a person who consumes, who drives a car, who loves a tomato, is that worth it to me? Is that really what we want to do with our money and our innovativeness and our incredible capacity to transform things? Is that really what we want it to be put to use for? And for me, the answer is without question, no, that is not what I meant to do. That is not what I meant to do. And as long as there are powers that be that erase that full storyline from our vision, and we aren't paying attention because we are just so busy trying to survive, that's a travesty. And we can do better. That's the other thing is throughout this story, you meet millions of people, not millions, but thousands of people who then represent millions behind them who are doing better. And we can use our intelligence to better effect.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I think that's such a great, bigger, larger point there is that again, we can do better. We can technologically innovate ourselves in all sorts of different directions and do all this sort of stuff where we are smart enough when it comes down to it to be able to find better solutions. And again, too, it comes down to being better. But what ultimately really comes down to, and this gets touched on a lot, especially with most anything that we're dealing with now, and especially in a lot of these subjects we're talking about in your book, is that money is a bigger priority. And again, too, it becomes this disconnectedness, this plant blindness almost again, too, that comes into effect as well, too, that affects large percentages of our society where they just can't see certain things. So certain things can be okay, and they'll look the other way as people who, again, are in search for more and more profit,
Yeah. Yeah.
put their profit over what is
Right.
in our real best interests, right?
Right. What is in our real best interest, and what is actual wealth? What is actual abundance? Like,
Mhm.
and this is like a perfect frame in this conversation, because Mark was rolling in seeds in the beginning of this show, right? That is wealth.
That's
That is what we
wealth.
want to leave to our children.
Exactly.
They can't eat dollar bills, and you can only have so many dollar bills, and you still can't eat them. And they still don't make a biodiverse planet, and they still don't take care of necessarily the community of humans, as well as environment, neighbors around us. And we still have the right to choose. Like, we can choose to see a fuller story, and we can choose to go a different way.
Yeah.
So you profile in your book a number of people who have actually done that. They've chosen a different way, and they're, maybe we call them the seed heroes or something. But so one person in particular jumped out. You say Rowan White, to my mind, is the unofficial poet laureate of seed with a capital existential S. So that's a pretty high praise for a person. I did not know that person. Please tell us her story.
Yeah.
So Rowan White is a fantastic seed keeper and teacher and Indigenous advocate who is currently based in Northern California. She runs something called the Seed Siva Academy, or Seed Siva. I think maybe it's just called Seed Siva, SEVA. And it's a class you can take online. She used to teach in person, but does that less so. She was the chair of the Indigenous Seed Keepers Network across the country. Her ancestry comes from the Northeast, and the Mohawk and Asquesassne, I always pronounce that incorrectly,
Right.
Territory up in that northeastern part of the US and southern Canada. And she has just had a profound impact on me, but I think on many, many people who have followed her work. She started out at like going to start a small seed company, but then realized this other cultural advocacy and education was more urgent to her at the time. And you can follow her on Instagram. You can follow her on her website, which is, I think, Sierra Seeds is still the name. But if you Google Rowan White, and she is just a beautiful teacher of the ways in which culture and seed are kind of containers for how to be human, and how to be a good human, and to grow all of this variety of what I consider to be a good life, being kind, being generous, being thoughtful, being observant, being an ally to the plants and people of the place you find yourself, no matter where you come from originally. Yeah. And, I think it has to be, constantly unnerving and heartbreaking to be a person in her position right now, and to watch our world make some of the choices it makes. But I think she is also one of the great modelers of constantly coming back to what matters most to her, which is the care and stewardship of these plants and people and places that she sees growing a world she wants to live in.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely more and more people like her for sure are needed. More awareness, more talking about this sort of stuff, more discussions, all of that when it comes down to it, because really, this plays a part in the bigger problems that we're going to be dealing with as we move forward, as you touched on there too. I think there's just a lot right now that just doesn't look very, very good in the sense when it comes to the outlook of some of that sort of stuff. But again, though, too, Mark also touched on this a little bit as well too, that you kind of really touch on, there's hope as well too, in some senses when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And I think, again, too, kind of touching on more people, like the person we're talking about there too, and others in your book that you're talking about, advocating for and doing some things to to hopefully give us a better sense of the future when it comes to these sort of things.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I always come back to
Really, it's people is what I'm saying, really, too.
right,
Sorry.
is, of all these huge, daunting things that can undo us every day, no matter what it is you are most worried about, it could be climate change, it could be biodiversity loss, it could be war, it could be, an unstable political or economic future. All of these are too big for any one person to handle on their own, period. But every single one of them is improved both individually and collectively by a better relationship with plants. More knowledge, more care, more sharing, more propagating. Like every single one of these problems, which seem too big, our little tiny dents are made in them with our having a better understanding and love and enjoyment of our plant surroundings.
Yeah, exactly. In a sense too, you can just get down to kind of I don't know necessarily if it's basics or not, but I think one of the really cool aspects of your book as well too, which I think some people who might not see some of these bigger subjects yet can start with just the fascination of plants themselves.
Just start right there.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the way the book kind of starts out in a way too. I mean, you give us a really great botany lesson through this. I mean, it's just really amazing. That's one of the things I found fascinating reading through some of the beginning here too, is just really kind of going through seeds and, just how it all works, where they came from, history of seeds and how they kind of developed over time in our, planet's history, and that sort of thing too. I just, if we can find a fascination from the origins in a way and that sort of thing, maybe we can learn to move towards these bigger picture items, right?
Well, and they give us such perspective, right? Like one of the sort of statistical facts that I like to put out when I'm sharing with people is this idea of like, here I am, a nearly 60-year-old woman in Northern California. You look at one seed, right? Like an acorn outside my window right now. These seeds represent something like, 365 million years of evolution on this planet. There are so many of them, and they have been evolving and adapting for so long. The number of seed-bearing plants, is around they guesstimate 400,000 or something.
Oh, wow.
They've been adapting for that long on this planet through conditions we can't even understand, right? From volcanoes and glaciers and dinosaurs and whoever knows what. And they're still here. They're still here. So they know stuff we don't know. Like we do not know it all, and we are here for a short time. So like just having faith in adapting and evolving and persisting, they show us that.
Yeah. And just kind of looking at them and learning about them and finding a fascination just with just some of these just kind of little miracles in a way too, and how this stuff works in that way. Like I said, I think it's just a great place to start. Learn about some plants and then start figuring out some of these bigger things, and in turn maybe we can try to drive a little bit more hope into our future, right?
Let's talk a little bit about seed banks, because I feel this is like a really potent idea for me in the culture, and even if I just take this is a sort of a seed bank in a way. It's like a seed has been captured and placed into this little container for storage. You reference this, to me like the paradigmatic seed bank is the Svalbard seed vault, right? It's like I've seen images of it. It's like in a permafrost glaciated setting, and you see this concrete bunker going down into the bowels of the earth, and you imagine all the world's seeds gathered there and somehow protected from drought and war and stuff. So I mean, in one sense that's comforting. It's like, thank God a few people thought to do that and had the global cooperation to actually achieve that.
Right.
On the other hand, every act of seed banking is, the part of such a big part of the book that you write about is all about the journal of your relationship with this ecosystem and seeing the seeds flourishing and being manifest at different times and dissipated at different times through the ecosystem. So that, the seed is a living thing. It is in relationship with its environment and the changing environment. And the idea of seed banking is like taking it out of circulation and locking it up for some period of time. There's a tension in that. Can you talk about that more?
There definitely is, but humans or human-like relations early on, like we have been storing and banking seeds since we've been walking on 2 feet. And some of the earliest remains that have ever been documented of humans have in fact included some seed specimens, like whether it's in a gut or it's in a little leather pouch that got preserved in a glacier. We have always banked our seeds because we understand that they are the source of everything, from food to, building materials to whatever. Maybe not metal, but, everything else.
Yeah.
And so we think of a seed bank now, and we have a certain idea in our head of these large, often government-based holdings of seed. But the first seed bank, which I like to remind myself, and I like to remind people listening to me, is the first seed bank is the soil all around us. Like that is where we learned this idea. Like seed is stored for sometimes hundreds of years in our soil until the right condition comes along to let it germinate. That is pretty cool right there. The viability and like what triggers the germination of a particular seed at a particular time is just, again, mysterious, magic, really cool. The earliest like recorded government seed banks were, date back to the late 1800s with what we call the first, known recorded seed bank, which is the Vavilov Seed Institute in Russia. But you think about indigenous communities, no matter where they might be, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, like people collected seed and they saved it from year to year. They didn't plant it all at once because they knew if something bad happened this year, they needed to have a backup set. So that is the idea, is how do we effectively collect our seed, save it, don't save it for too long because then it might die, So like slowly over these many, many hundreds of years, centuries, humans have developed these processes. Seed banks live by those processes. So yes, it seems like we have taken seed and captured it and held it in time. The best seed banks use a protocol wherein it doesn't stay there without being grown out and refreshed and saved again. Right? Yeah. So, but there is this tension of like, the whole point of a seed is the whole point of a plant that relies on seed for propagation, wants to make sure there's a whole generation of seed that goes out. And then the next year, a whole nother generation, and probably not all the seed from this generation before, a little bit like your freezer, Mark. There is still seed in there because you forgot it, or it didn't germinate, or a squirrel moved it somewhere and it didn't do what it needed to do. So there is a tension, and I think we as humans have to think about it and make sure that these seed banks that we are relying on, holding some of our biodiversity in this static and protected place, that they are supported enough to keep up with the best of protocols as far as we understand them in terms of growing out, being refreshed, so that biodiversity is adapting and evolving in a place as well as being held as a safeguard. And every single seed bank manager or seed person that I spoke with in these places, such as Stephanie Green and Christina Walters at the USDA Germplasm Center in Fort Collins, what they all say without hesitation is that the very, very first line of defense is protecting the biodiversity we have in its place.
Yes.
Protecting these plants, protecting these places. The second line of defense is collecting the seed and storing it somewhere as a backup so that in the event of a catastrophic wildfire or war or whatever else might happen, hurricane, etc., we have some of these seeds to hopefully revitalize that place that was damaged. So, it is, it's a balance.
There too. We just had a fascinating interview last month with Deborah Tannen about botanical gardens.
Yeah.
And you certainly mentioned that too. So there's like this middle ground of like, well, we can keep some of the plants alive and keep cycles going in a protected living space that's not the natural environment, but it's not a seed bank either.
Definitely.
You talked a lot about Q in the book as well too. We touched on that place as well on the last one. And the thing too, and I don't want to get off of the book too much, but this has actually been kind of something we've been talking about a little bit. Yesterday's show and us actually last week in the chat, they're talking about a little bit too. We had Scott Wilson from the Gardner Scott channel on with us, and he's gone into a seed bank that's right here in America, I think Colorado or something. So we got some really, we got a really cool one here in the States as well. And then there's this, is it Sval? I'm going to mess the name up. Svalbard, yes.
There's about 1,500 different seed banks like around the world at that level, and we have quite a few we have a lot in the U.S. The big one out of Fort Collins is the USDA bank, but it isn't just one thing. It's a network of spaces and places and people around the country that feed into it. And the interesting thing really about Svalbard is what you just said, Mark, which is it is an incredible illustration of what we can accomplish when we collaborate and cooperate well, because the fact that all of these governments came together to create this backup copy of the backup copies was just a miracle of God wherever they may be. And because you don't see it happen very often, but people came together around this idea. So Svalbard is a little bit of an oddity in that most seed banks are being replenished and grown out, and they represent a particular, either group of plants or area of plant life. And they are constantly being replenished. The Svalbard doesn't grow anything of its own. It doesn't represent anything except for being a backup copy of all of these other seed banks.
And really, I suppose in some senses kind of meant for the ultimate of needs and some sort of human situation that could happen in the future that we would really need something like that. But also you touched on something too, as we were talking about earlier as well too, which kind of talks about maybe more of the importance of us as individuals in some senses. We play a part in creating our own kind of community seed banks in a sense, or doing that sort of stuff. And you mentioned again too about March 2020 and moving into this pandemic, and next thing you know, you're looking for seeds a little bit too late because everybody else is finding a need for them right now, and they go to the market and everything's gone, and we see that this whole larger seed market can't handle the demand for seed when it becomes a demand. When it comes down to it. And I'll just mention too, because and I know you've been on the Urban Farm podcast with Greg Peterson as well too. He was on yesterday, and we kind of touched on and talked about that with his new venture that they're doing with.
I know, it sounded great.
They started with their project in Phoenix. They've been doing for the last 10 or 11 years, called the Great American Seed Up. And it's a way to kind of get bulk seeds to people so that you can create just drive the cost down. So now I can imagine, and we don't want to get into it really too much as we talk about the wealth of Mark's seeds he got from Baker Creek there. But in the long run, when we're thinking about it, and we touched on this, and I thought about this a little bit too in a discussion we had yesterday. Now, and this is a new opportunity for gardeners, what they're doing with this Great American Seed Up. Because you don't really have this opportunity with other seed companies to be able to get bulk seeds that you can kind of dole out, or even kind of raise, if you have garden clubs or something like that. There's all sorts of possibilities with it. But I was thinking online, well, let's do like gift giveaways. Let's get seeds out to friends and all that, and let's just get seeds out to people. And then someone commented yesterday about how they've tried to give and gift seeds before and it hadn't worked out too well. And I was thinking, well, then just keep giving. If you're making it so affordable with what they're doing right there. And then I was thinking, well, if what ends up happening now is you say you've given them 20 varieties of some cool things in a nice little package that they can store away. Maybe they pop it in their freezer or something. Then they don't necessarily do with it, but then you give them the next one or something. But who knows when or the next thing's going to happen when demand starts to hit, right?
Yeah.
And what you've done now is, instead of, maybe they didn't really get out and plant a lot, but you also built kind of a community seed bank in a way with you and your friends and your family, that you all now have kind of seeds because you've been kind of doling them out a little bit, even if they're gifts, you know what I mean, to other people. But you can now go, if something like this happens right close to you, local now, versus having to worry about a big, large seed bank somewhere, getting them down to you. You've got it locally.
And, I think it's among the greatest lessons of the seed, which is, no plant makes one seed. They make a whole lot of seed.
Yes.
They don't just do it once. They do it every single year. And it is the gift economy that Robin Wall Kimmerer talks about over and over again. It is just about just pure generosity of abundance again and again and again, knowing that most of them aren't going to make it into maturity, but they might make it into food, or they might make it into soil, or they might make it into something else. A couple of them are going to make it, and they too will put out hundreds of thousands of seeds. And it's clearly a strategy for survival and thriving that has worked out for the plants. We might as well try it.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes of the book, in fact, is right on the lines of that. Talking about cucumbers and how abundant the seeds are, you say, the plant is inviting you to share them.
They
are.
Yep.
One thing I'd like to hear about a little bit more, and it's kind of I actually was talking about this book to my middle school students the other day, and I invited them to join. I don't know, being middle school students on a Sunday, they're probably not going to be here. But if they are, shout out to them.
Shout out to them.
I actually had to convince one girl that a seed was a living thing. She thought of it as kind of a stone, somehow. And it's like, well, how does it get alive then, when you plant? But we come from a very, at least, again, like the Western cultural perspective, even for those of us who have been in this profession for years. I mean, I admit I still have a very rationalistic orientation toward things. I still have a very objectivist view on things in the natural world. I observe them, I appreciate them, but somehow my training has taught them to see them other than me. You talk about some different people who have perspectives on seed and ceremony and relationship. And, maybe you could say a little more about that. And I also did notice, this is something I've always been intrigued with, you seem to follow a lunar cycle in terms of planting seeds. So talk a little bit about that, because I think that's something I've touched on it with biodynamic agriculture, because they tend to have the same thing. And part of me wants to say, well, has she done any experiment on this? And so it's like,
right.
But I just want to hear. I
will say that I'm not a strict lunar planter or any other thing. I am also, I would probably have the exact same questions about the biodynamics and what the scientific research might say, depending on who did that scientific research and what they were looking for. What I do know, or what I have faith in, is energy. And there is this like, when we pay attention to something, our energy, there is an exchange, and that energy makes a difference. That's what I believe. And so when I thought about how to arrange this book, one of the things that was kind of powerful to me and meaningful to me was this idea of the cycle of the moon, because it is something that no matter what religion you are, no matter what country you live in, what economic situation you're in, no matter what, we all see the same sun and the same moon on this same planet, and they go through the same cycles. And there is something about the visible shifting of the cycles of the moon, different than the way we experience our sun, that seemed like a very nice way for anyone to be able to mark time in their place. And that simple universal symbol and measure allowed us a common place to start. So that's why I really wanted to include that. It's definitely something that the different teachers that I have studied with through books or online or in person also come back to. It is something that whole cultures, like my history would be Celtic culture, many of the indigenous cultures, the whole Jewish faith, as well as many of the, sort of different versions of Islam, all recognize something to do with the moon cycle. And, it's what determines holidays in many cases.
Yeah.
So this seemed like both a very present moment way for people to be like, where is the moon right now? What does it look like? Where are we? Therefore, where am I? Therefore, I am here. And it kind of brings us back to place in a way that we often aren't. So that is why I included that. And then it becomes this measure by which we can say, and what is growing now? And what is it doing now? And it's sort of developing our own sense of phenology of our own lives. And those parallels between us as humans and these plants that make our lives, as especially plant people, make our lives very pleasurable and beautiful and delicious and nutritious and seasonal. When we become aware of their phenology, we know so much, like we can learn so much more about them if we are paying attention to them in that way.
Yes.
And then we all of a sudden also relate to them. Like they're, and I talk about this in the book. Like in the book, at the time I was writing it, I actually outlived my own mother, who died at the age of 56. And I also move out of my childbearing years. Like these are all, this is not, intimate detail about me. This is the universality of life and the different stages that plants go through, we go through, the moon goes through, the planet goes through. Apparently our society goes through it too. So it's a way to remind yourself that you aren't alone and you aren't unusual, but that is also miraculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered any question. I just sort of rambled right there.
No, you did. Well, I mean, I can see that. I think, and especially the question about any kind of ceremony, there's such a tendency to appropriate and take somebody else's thing. And I think really what you're saying is when we pay close attention to what's around us and to the lives of these plants and these seeds, then we get some sense of reverence and we can generate some sense of ceremony just based on that attention. And then it will be authentic to us.
Yes. And in that authentic, understanding and becoming closer and more intimate with these lives that are all around us. I talk about this in the book, and I talk about it when I give a talk about the book, is like, we have these two different worldviews, and we have that one that is held by Robin Wall Kimmerer and Rowan White and Vivian Sansor, who have these, are still quite close to their cultural and indigenous ways of being, or have made it a point in their lives to become closer to them. And then you have the drive through the Coachella Valley, and you have the, Western capitalistic colonial mindset, which is, the very ideal of capitalism and a capitalist market is like, get the most you can for what you can, when you can, whenever you can. And so in this, all seed becomes commodity and becomes something to sell and buy, right? But in these other worldviews, these are ancestors. These are your grandmother, your greatest teacher. These are your legacy and your inheritance, and your job is to take care of it well enough to steward it into the future and pay it forward for your children. These are two very, very different worldviews. And as a result of these two different worldviews, we make very different decisions about how we care for what we care for around us. And one of them leads us to the Coachella Valley, and the other leads us to a reverence. like, which one do we want to perpetuate going forward? Because we are at a crossroads, and the
Wow.
more of us who decide one way or the other will decide what happens. And I, for one, will definitely choose reverence.
Mm.
Yeah. So much. And again, too, just man, so much good stuff here. I mean, I still got a lot I want to talk about, but we're rolling down here. I'm gonna have to kind of say for my last question on the book, I do got a couple of others besides, but let me see here. I guess I would have to go with uh let's talk a little bit, because I thought this was kind of fascinating. We've talked about seed banks, but to me, I thought was kind of interesting was kind of how new the seed library movement is.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of maybe have you touch on that just a little bit too, because that was one of the things I kind of found fascinating about some of the things I learned in this book was kind of how new that is, and and again, another part of what we can do to kind of help ensure that we're getting seeds out to people locally on a more local fashion too. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's one of the to me, it was one of the like really fun storylines to work on, because it is an adaptation of seed people to our current way of living in this world. Because prior to, the last century and 25 years, all communities would have had shared seed. You would have had, your grange, you would have had your quilting bee that shared seed. You would have had whatever the community was that you were in would have naturally shared seed with each other. And but fast forward into a world where you don't cooperate and communicate like that. You actually compete, and you become individual sales modules, and you patent things and you own things. And the seed library is this just great adaptation to getting seed back into the public forum, not just the seed itself to exchange, but also the idea of it. So in around 1999, I think it was, Kay Green, his name is Ken Green, but he goes by Kay, who became the founder of the Hudson Valley Seed Company. He was working at a public library in Gardner, New York, and he was doing a local food project. I think Barbara Kingsolver's Animal Vegetable Miracle had come out recently, and they did this like project with the community trying to document how far their food was coming and if they could live on 100-mile food diet for a year. Like, they were mirroring that. And what became clear was that people, again, didn't know where their seed came from and how far away it was coming to them from. And so that project, the local food project, led to a local seed project. And so they developed this first seed catalog in the old card catalogs that, all libraries used to have, but are now relatively obsolete because we use the computer to look things up. Yeah, little drawers. And so they started making a seed library with people, submitting mostly food seed. Most of these seed libraries they started as food seed, seed crop, food crop seed. But they have increasingly become also flowers and herbs and native plants as well. And the librarians were part of the tenders. Sometimes other groups come in, like a garden club will work with their library. The Hudson Valley Seeds are fantastic. And Kay Green has done phenomenal work in our seed world, both culturally and economically. And so now, so that was just in 1999, 2000, that very first seed library. And now there are thousands across the country. There's a great hub out of the Bay Area that was kind of collated by Rebecca Newburn of the seed library down there. And there are hubs all over the country now, and many. And what I love is this idea of the democratic ideals of a public library in which all knowledge is in one place and accessible by anybody at not any time, but as long as the library is open.
Yeah.
And that idea that we should have a right to access knowledge, and that now seed is actually a physical part of that knowledge, is just symbolically perfect in my mind.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And kind of goes to speak to a little bit of, we're talking about hope and despair a little bit there.
Yeah.
Kind of speaks to a little bit of the hope a little bit that we can look at
Yeah.
something that started again just 25 years ago.
Yeah.
We're only a quarter century away from the beginning of seed libraries, and there's thousands out there, and we're seeing people do more and more of that stuff. So that begins to bring us a little bit of hope about what we can see in the future, right?
Yes.
I know that we have to wind up soon, but first of all, I want to let people know there's still so much that we will not be able to touch on in this conversation.
It's
We haven't talked
unbelievable.
about genetic engineering, GMOs. We haven't
Yes.
talked about breeding. We haven't talked about outbreeding depression and natural collections of plants. We haven't talked. I mean, there's like a gajillion things in this book that we haven't even touched on yet. But the thing I want to, you mentioned this guy, Jeff Quattrone, or
Oh, yeah.
and he comes up a bunch in a couple of different sections, but he's got this sense of, the backyard biodiversity, just trying to bring it to the home gardener. And I love his quote. It's very empowering. Match your passion and skills to the seed work that needs doing. So if we have some people who are listening and be like, all right, gosh darn it, this year I'm going to become a seed saver, what would you point them to? How do they learn this art of seed saving and how to do it and what they're going to do?
I recently had an interview with Dan Brisbois out of Canada, and he recommends, and I love this, so I'm just going to crib it right from him, this idea of first seed mindset. So the first thing I would recommend you do if you are interested in this is pay attention to your favorite plants. When are they sprouting? When are they blooming? Pay attention to that bloom so that when you see it pass over, you begin to watch the next phase of the seed set. Now, it could be a fruit. It could be, like a maple samara. It could be a rose hip. But until you pay attention, you might not even know where that plant makes its seed and what that seed looks like. And as gardeners, like, one of our tasks is actually to try and keep our plants from setting seed, because we want the fruit, right? Like, we want the carrot. So it's likely that many people have never ever seen a carrot live long enough to go to seed, set seed, and actually have ripe seed, because it's a 2-year process. So what do you love to either look at or pick or eat around you, and pay attention and let it go through its whole cycle? Not necessarily your whole carrot crop or your whole spinach crop or whatever it is. Onions are a little complicated also, but let some of them go all the way to seed. And then look at when that seed is starting to disperse, the plant itself is letting the seed go, because that's a very specific moment, and it means the seed is ripe. That is the time to collect the seed. Then you're going to look at that seed and you're going to ask a couple questions. Is it wet? Is it dry? If it's wet or dry, you will do different things with it in order to save it successfully for next season. And there are a great number of books that can teach you all about these differences. That wasn't necessarily the point of this book, but I do have a whole list in the back of this book of books like that, that are worth looking into if you get like really bitten by the bug and you want to save every seed you possibly can. But my first recommendation is just pay attention to the plants you love the most. When are they setting seed? What does that seed look like? When do they let go of their seed? And try and save some and grow some out next year, because it's super fun. And if anything is going to make you feel empowered in this exact time in our world, growing your own food or habitat from seed will make you feel empowered beyond anything.
I'm telling you, man, I
Here's
love it.
a story. We have a fast food chain in the Pacific Northwest called Burgerville, and they're as far as fast food goes, they're a little more on the progressive side. So, for example, I have among my garden tools some plastic 3-prong cultivators that Burgerville gave and the equivalent of their Happy Meal. And one year, one kid brought me a cilantro package that he had received from Burgerville, and I grew it out, and then in 2 seasons, I took that cilantro from one small package and I generated a like 40-gallon garbage cans worth of seed just from that one package. So it was
Wow.
just amazing how the world can open up when you really start to look at seeds, saving seeds, and the fun and the joy of it. There's a whole joy of it.
Yeah. And the abundance, like unbelievable. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, just so amazing. All right, one last thing I'll say and have you talk about real quick about the book here, real quick. And I mentioned this before we got the show started when we were talking with you there too. There was a lot that was really relatable, I think, for both Mark and I too. As we're both from Oregon, we're neighbors to California. You talk throughout the book a lot about the wildfires. Talk about, I'll just mention, we mentioned March 2020. Well, for us, 2020 here on the West Coast was even bigger of an issue because not only was there's this pandemic and we were getting locked inside, but we're also getting covered in smoke throughout the whole Western states and all of that under all these just incredible wildfires going all the way back to like 2000, I believe 18's Camp Fire.
18 was a big year. Yeah.
Yeah. But 2020 was even big for me in the Rogue Valley. We had the Alameda fire that ran through and torched a couple of our towns down here, which was really something. 2020 was just like, it felt like an apocalypse or whatever,
Yeah.
But there was a lot I know that we related to us here, who the hosts here, as far as reading this book and everything. But there was also a quote and something you talked about towards the end of the book too. I think maybe we can end this with as well too, is that this book and as well too, we've also touched on as well, I'll mention, California. So California comes up a lot. It's a base of a lot of where where you're from and all of that, but this is not a tale of California, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe you can kind of touch that, because again, too, we're talking about seeds. This is a worldwide thing. We got people from Australia, the UK, all this sort of stuff. Seeds are important to people worldwide. There's so much that you touch on in this book that affect people worldwide as well too. So again, maybe you can touch on that real quick before we finish up about why this isn't just a tale, or this is not a tale of California.
Right. I think for me, for anyone to learn these concepts and learn these lessons from plants and place, you have to start where you are. Where I am is California. Oh, you're back. Okay. Yeah. And I recommend that you start wherever you are, and there are, I interview seed keepers from New Jersey, from Australia, from, the United Kingdom, from Japan, from, we have to start where we are. But once you start where you are, you start also running into and expanding into these universal concepts and issues and joys and despairs. And they're going to be everywhere. But coming back to where you are is where you can start to make changes or decisions from. And for me, that is it's a great gift and a lesson of being a gardener. But I think it also comes back to, as a result of that gift, we bear a responsibility. And how do we want to take responsibility? And it could be you grow more food. It could be you grow more flowers. It could be you save more seed. It could be that you go and tend a community garden. I'm not sure what. I'm just sure that as gardeners, we need to be as generous as our plants in sharing this act and this skill and this legacy that we love and benefit from.
Excellent. Do you have any last questions at all, Mark?
It's not really a question. I'm just gonna read your kind of what you hope to get out of this book and then validate that I think you succeeded.
Excellent.
right at the introduction. I hope my own journey here through veins of the history, biology, social, and cultural arc of seed in the United States, seen through a lens of my own life, will inspire readers and gardeners to be ever more loving, knowledgeable, vigilant, and proactive in your own advocacy on behalf of our connection to the natural world. I think you succeeded brilliantly, so thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much, and just keep doing what you're doing. We need more of your voices and enthusiasm and sharing and knowledge and this kind of community. We need as many as we can get.
Yes, yes. Hear, hear.
Let's grow. Let's keep on growing, right?
Yeah.
So people get this book.
Yes,
Appreciate
definitely.
that. Appreciate
What
that.
We Sow here. And real quick here before we let you go, though, too, I want to also give you a chance to maybe tell us a little bit more about what you might have coming up. Is there any other books, or maybe you could talk a little bit about maybe something coming up? We mentioned earlier before you have an amazing show yourself, Cultivating Places and everything too. So everybody take a look for links down below and all of that. But let us know about anything you might have coming up as well too.
Well, I have, as I mentioned, Cultivating Places now in its 10th year of production. I have added 2 new guest hosts to my program. It's the program is downloaded more than 1 million times each year by gardeners around the world, which is, again, like very profoundly meaningful to me. And it tells us, right, how hungry people are to commune with each other like this. And so I actually just became a nonprofit foundation, the Cultivating Place Foundation, and we are working on a film series that we started last year and will continue this year and hopefully roll out as a film in 2026 or 2027 called Cultivating Place Live, which is interviewing with people in real time in their place, supporting the work they're doing, but also capturing this on film as a way to not just make kind of audible, but make visible the many ways that gardeners really do grow the world around them and animate connections that we don't generally think of as gardening, but is absolutely part and parcel to what being a gardener in our world means. And when I say gardener, it's sort of like with a capital G. I'm talking about people that are really heartfelt and thoughtful about their impact in the world, environmentally, but also culturally and socially. And just amazing people doing amazing things. And I think the more we see them and support them, the better off we will all be.
Absolutely. Well said. I can't.
Thanks for putting
more.
There. I remember going to a Paul Hawken talk, and he ended, I think, as he often does, with this Star Wars kind of scrolling of the screen of just all these organizations and nonprofits doing earth protection. So I feel like we got a little taste of that reading your book. Like, it's kind of like this screen that just keeps going on and on. It's like,
yeah,
well, have you heard about so-and-so? Have you heard about this movement? Have you heard about, like,
just keep lifting them up, because we need to know about them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you. It's been a
absolutely pleasure. Absolutely. And like I said, this is just a really great book, everybody. It's just been awesome to be able to spend time with this over the last month. What We Sow by Jennifer Jewell, host of Cultivating Places. She's got her copy. All right, we all got our copies. I know we got some folks in the audience as well. They got copies on the way right now too. Again, just a really wonderful book, a lot more than I thought I was going to get when I was getting into this. Like I said, it's just really, really some special stuff. And I really look forward to more coming from you down the road as well, too. And like you said, huge inspiration, too, for me and what I do here. I'll say that one more time with what you do with your show and as well, too. It's just really, really, like you said, we just more and more voices, more and more discussions when it comes to this sort of stuff. And maybe we can have an even stronger and bigger impact on the things that we're facing in the future, like we talked about before.
Yes.
And really, again, thank you so much, Jennifer, for taking your time to hang out with us, couple of guys here talking and nerding out about seeds. This has just been so much fun.
We took the big bite.
Yes.
I think today was a big bite. That was a really good bite. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
All right, Mark. How about that, huh?
Dang, it's just pretty much knocked my hat right off right there. Just go back to TikTok.
I'm telling you again, too, as we say, we end almost every one of these book clubs. It's just like, wow. I mean, look at this. This is such a great book. And again, too, just what a wonderful addition to all of the other. I know you put out a really fantastic reel promoting this show this week, talking about all the other books and stuff, too. Just right up there with all of these just wonderful, awesome books that we've been able to review here on the Let's Get Growing Monthly Gardening Book Club.
Well, I always end this wondering, like, how did 2 ordinary Joes like us get to hang out with these great people?
I know, right?
You know, click and clack. They're like, they always end their program like they used to end their program with like, well, you just wasted another good hour of your time here. So I'm like, wow, we just got to hang out with like one of the great leaders of thought, you know, in the seed world, and somehow she consented to spend an hour with us. That's awesome, man. That's incredible.
Yes, absolutely. Again, like I was saying at the beginning of the show, a little gloating today about, you know, just how awesome it is that, again, for one, all these amazing conversations that we get to have with all these amazing people. And like I said, real just leaders in the gardening community, and to also, you know, just, you know, pay tribute and to reading and books, as we get to do here with this book club, and get to talk to these amazing authors. We're just so fortunate. You're not going to find another show, and I'll just say on YouTube, I'll say that because we're talking with someone who has a really great show today too as well, Cultivating Places. But we have something really just awesome going on here, and it's just really been so much fun, especially getting to hang out with you doing this here on our book club too, Mark.
Man, Enoch, it's just always a pleasure. Saying at the beginning, you know, I'm building this bookshelf now of the titles that we've been reading.
Yeah. I got mine right down here too.
Smile to my face every time, because now it's not just a book that I read, but it's like a person's face is there, a story, a whole something about them, and it's just the most interesting little collection of books I've ever had. This whole experience is just wonderful. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Glad we're doing it. So thanks for making it happen on your show here.
Yeah. Again, too, so great, so cool. But you know what? Again, too, let's just say it one last time, though. You guys gotta, if you haven't already, go get this book, What We Sow. It's been such an amazing book to feature this last month, Jennifer Jewell. So get yourself a copy. Links down below. Read this amazing book and join in on the battle for our future in seeds, and learn just a lot more about it. There's just so much in there. Again, like we said, there's just so much we could have talked about. We didn't get to. I got a list of things here, and at the end had to really kind of choose something. But we could have gone on for another hour or more talking about it. But again, link down below. Go get yourself a copy of that book. But now it's time, Mark, of the show for us to announce and talk about what will be our book for next month.
Yes,
and I know you got a copy right there, but I'm going to put it on the screen for everybody right now. We've got The Climate Change Resilient Vegetable Garden by Kim Stoddart. She's going to be joined with us here on the 3rd Sunday of next month. So that'll be the 3rd Sunday of March. And let me just double check here to make sure I've got the right Sunday. That's going to be the 16th of March. So the third Sunday, the 16th of March, we will have with us Kim Stoddard on the show to talk all about, and you already got your copy. Mine should be here anytime now. I can get mine any day now, but you already got yours.
Here, just a little preview. I was flipping through it, and basically saving your own seeds is one of her 5 main points to building a resilient garden. So
Yes.
there's going to be a lot of continuity. Yeah, let's see. Number 4 is save your seeds. So that's she's right on it. I mean, we're just, these themes just keep reinforcing. Building a resilient garden means you're generating your own seeds to some extent, and they're getting adapted to your local ecosystem and climate. So I've already paged through this morning, and it's a solid book. There's a lot of good tips in here.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait to get my copy.
Well,
I can't wait to get into it.
This is our 3rd British author, right? Is that right?
I believe so. So far, yep.
Yeah, we had Tony O'Neill, the hero, who spoke to us at 8 p.m.
I think Tony's in the audience right now.
Hey, Tony, yeah. I remember the day, I think we talked to him like back in May or something, and he had spent, it was a Sunday, he spent a full day gardening in his garden. Then he finishes up the day by giving us an hour-long interview. That was cool.
Yes.
And then we talked to Deborah Tannen last time. She was Trenton, sorry. She was on location in Sicily, going to some festivals and fairs and checking out a botanical garden there. So that was cool.
That was an amazing book. Wow.
Yeah, Kim's going to have to be up at 8 o'clock to talk to us, 8 p.m. for her. But that's pretty cool that we got all these people willing to do this at crazy hours for them.
Yeah. It's just kind of like a closing of the evening. And also, like I mentioned too at the beginning of the show, I'll talk about here in a minute as well too. We got Charles Dowding coming on the show coming up soon too. I can't wait for that. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and as well too on that same show, our Are You Following Me segment is in the garden with Ellie and Kate from Scotland as well too. So we'll have Scotland and the UK, the whole UK represented almost there that day too. So that's going to be a fun show for us there. But again, we touched on this and talked about this, and we'll talk about this here just real quick as we're closing up. Kim Stoddard, our author for next month's book club, will be up there at the Seattle Flower and Garden Show. So you'll get a chance to get a little pre-interview there up at the Seattle show here this next week. And yeah, so that's going to be real fun. Get to meet the author beforehand.
You know who she is, because she seems to have this really bright red hair. See, there she is. So I think I'll be able to find her at the show and be like, hey, you must be Kim Stoddard.
Picture right here. There you go.
Yeah. So, that'll be easy for me to spot her in the crowd.
Yes, absolutely. But that'll be fun as well too. And you know, a few other authors as well that we've already interviewed. I believe Ellen Zakos will be up there too. Yep. She's actually got a new book we got to talk about sometime as well, you know, that just came out. But, you know, again, too, just going to be fun for you. I'm really going to bone, but you're going to have so much fun. Again, too, there's a few other people, I think, too, that we've had on the show as well, too, that you'll get a chance to run into while you're up there.
Definitely Cisco, man. He's like
Cisco. Yep.
I have to beat the crowd away from him after his talk, though, to even get a word in edgewise, because they're like a gajillion people mass around him because he's like a local hero, you know, up there in the Seattle area.
I'm going to give you a hint, and I'll give you a key to how and what you got to do here. Okay. You got to get a hold of Cisco before his talk. So you got to find him leading up or be around the area where his talk is and get him before his talk, because afterwards he's done it and then people are filing out and then it just becomes a whole ordeal. But beforehand, he doesn't have as many people huddling around him or anything. So that's good tip. That's your tip. You'll get him there. Yeah. You'll get him then for sure. But yeah, again too. So we've got the climate change resilient vegetable garden with Kim Stoddard for our new book of the month. And again too, we just got done reviewing and talking to Jennifer Jewell about What We Sow. Get down below to the links below there. And again, Mark, just so amazing. How awesome. Another book club in the books for us here. And we're just marching along into 2025 with some, again, too, we're looking forward to some even more awesome selections ahead for us.
Yeah, and we just keep, it seems like we just keep jumping around to all these different topics and ways of presenting things. So it keeps it very interesting. It's been very varied and diverse. And I'm just going to keep hoping that we'll have more of the same. Just this wonderful, something like this week, this month's was a much more like profound and meditative kind of exploration of seeds. And something like this is a little bit more practically oriented. Like here's some techniques, here's a bunch of pictures. So I think, I think we're casting a wide net. I think we're trying to get a lot of different kinds of writing styles and gardening styles, and hopefully there's something to appeal to everyone. And
different types of books, whether they're how-to or even fictional, all sorts. We just want to go all over the place.
yes, yeah. So yet for me, I know that there's not been a book that I haven't been really engaged by. So that's another cool thing. Even with this diversity of styles, I think any gardener who's following along with us can benefit from any and all of these books. I think they're all going to be beneficial to your garden practice and just your view of gardening in general.
Yeah, you'll definitely enjoy the books. Get yourself copies if you can, but as we always say, it's not required, because that's the great thing about this show is that, we get to talk about and have a great conversation, really dig into these books with the authors and everything. But it's always great to get in and spend some time with a good book. And that's just one of the reason why we started doing this is that we're both book lovers, and to be able to just dig into something and really just, and then you can't beat it by finishing it all up with a great conversation with the author as well.
Well, it's really, one, it's a pretty low bar. We don't even ask you to read the book. All you have to do is show up. And two, I really like seeing though people, I noticed a couple of messages like, I just ordered this.
Yep.
So get excited, once you hear from these authors, I just get caught up in the spirit of the book that much more. And so I'm really glad to hear that people are making the commitment to buy the book and get it, and then they'll to enjoy it. It's almost like a pre-reading. This is like for some people it's like a pre-reading or a preview.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go for it.
Exactly. And like we said, there was just so much still that's in here that we didn't even get to touch on, that you're going to want to read this book, and you're going to want to do it anyway. So even though it might not be required to, I think with the inspiration and the conversation and all of that comes from these book clubs, you're going to want to read these books and get them. So again, links down below to that. And Mark, again, thank you so much for hanging out with me here for this fun conversation and all of that as well too. I'm going to get moving on here and finish this thing up, and then I'll catch up with you here in just a few minutes afterwards.
And I'll hopefully see a lot of viewers next weekend from some live casting from the Northwest Flower and Garden Show. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Yeah, you all got his face right here. You know what he looks like too. So if you are at the Seattle Flower and Garden Show, make sure you stop Mark and say hello to him as well too.
No hair, so I'll be wearing a baseball cap.
Okay, there you go. Excellent, Mark. I'll see you in a couple of minutes, man.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, sorry. Whoops. I'm doing this. Oh, get your buttons right. Get your buttons right. All right. How fun, everybody, for another gardening book here, finishing up here on the show. Again, thank you to Jennifer Jewell for spending your time with me and my good friend Mark Boucher-Colbert today to talk all about this just really wonderful book. Again, What We Sow. And go get yourself a copy of this. Go read all about all of this just wonderful, wonderful stuff. All about seeds. That's what we've been talking about today and this weekend on the show. Remember, we are here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Urban Garden channel. And again, too, like I said, we got a lot of great things to look forward to coming up here as well. Like I said, next Saturday, for next Saturday's show, we are going to do kind of a little special edition, kind of look at the Seattle or the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival up in Seattle. We're going to have Mark come back with us and join with us again live, and kind of maybe even give us a little walkthrough. We'll go and take a look around and maybe check out some of the exhibits and that sort of thing, and maybe put together some other things with our good friend Wendy Fan. She's going to be up there doing a talk as well too. So maybe we'll have a little visit from her as well from the Seattle Flower and Garden Show. So we'll do that. I'm putting together, I got one person so far, and I'm working on another. So maybe we'll have a garden roundtable for next Sunday's show. And again, too, if you get a chance to go back to yesterday's show as well, with Greg Peterson from the Urban Farm, urbanfarm.org, Urban Farm podcast. And we talked all about his new venture, the Great American Seed Up. We're talking all about seeds this weekend. You're going to want to go and check this out if you didn't get a chance to check out this conversation, learn a little bit more about the Great American Seed Up and how this can play a role in some of the topics and things that we were talking about today in, like seed banking and things that we can do to ensure that we've got enough seeds available to us if we really ever need them. So, and again, too, coming up March 1st, we're going to have with us Charles Dowding on the show. We're going to talk all about no dig gardening revolution movement and all of that. Charles Dowding on the show with us March 1st, as we're talking about. Come and join with us then. I really look forward to seeing all of you for these upcoming shows. And if you can, before we finish up, click that like button, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and hit the bell notification as well to be notified of all of our upcoming shows and videos, and as well to share with all of your friends, garden groups, garden clubs, all of that. Let them know about the Let's Get Growing show here on the Urban Gardener channel, and all these just really amazing, fun conversations that we get to have here each and every Saturday and Sunday, like I said. And thank you all, everybody, all of you who are here with us live, all of you who are here finishing up with us, watching the replay. You all make this show so special. Thank you so much for being with me here, and I look forward to seeing you next Saturday.